Femi Ayodele's return to Ikoyi felt like stepping into an elaborate, gilded tomb. The silence of his penthouse was deafening, amplified by the hollowness in his chest. He was Femi Ayodele again, the undisputed sovereign of Ayodele Holdings, yet he felt poorer than the Deji ever was. The vast, panoramic view of the Lagos lagoon seemed to mock him. He had purchased the world but lost the only soul he truly valued. He had achieved his goal, finding a woman who loved him for his character, only to have that love immediately poisoned by his own well-intentioned lie. He sat alone in his marble-clad office, trying to process the pain, when a discreet chime announced a visitor. It wasn't his PA, it was an uninvited guest. Bisi, wearing a dress that screamed social climber and smelling of cheap, ambitious perfume, swept into the room, her eyes wide with undisguised greed. She didn't look like a spy or a cousin, she looked like a jackal claiming its reward. Femi, darling, she purred, stretching the use of his name like taffy. Or should I say, Deji. I knew you were too handsome to be genuinely poor. I'm impressed. A billionaire playing dress-up in Suralia. It's almost romantic. Femi's jaw tightened. He didn't invite her to sit. What do you want, Bisi? You've already done your damage. Joke believes I'm a criminal hiding from the law. Your envy worked. Bisi shrugged, sinking uninvited into a supple leather chair. Envy? No, Femi. I simply saw an opportunity. Joke is a sweet girl, but she's not for this life. She's too honest, too dusty. I, on the other hand, understand the diamond. I know what it takes to protect it, and more importantly, I know what it takes to shatter it. She leaned forward, her eyes glittering with little ambition. Here is my offer. I keep my mouth shut about your little experiment. I never tell Joke the real reason you were slamming it, thus preserving the criminal lie and keeping her away from your vast wealth, which is what you wanted, isn't it? In exchange, I require a small investment, 10 million naira. Non-negotiable. I need capital to start my own empire, and since I found yours, I feel I've earned my partnership. The audacity of her demand was breathtaking. Femi felt a cold, hard resolve settle in his gut. This wasn't about money, it was about protecting the tiny, fragile truth that still existed between him and Joke. If he paid Bisi, he was legitimizing the lie she had told, trapping Joke forever in a painful, false narrative. The answer is no, Bisi, Femi stated, his voice low and dangerous. I don't negotiate with blackmailers. You exposed my identity, but you fabricated the criminal story. If you open your mouth again, I will reveal the truth of your malicious slander to Joke, and you will be completely cut out of her life and whatever pitiful social standing you think you possess. Bisi's mask slipped, revealing a flash of genuine rage and pure, unfiltered greed. You arrogant fool. You think you can buy honesty, but you can't buy my silence. You have no idea what I am capable of when I'm denied what I deserve. She sprang up, knocking the chair back slightly. You want to play the honest man? Fine. I will make sure Joke and everyone else believes the worst possible version of Femi Ayodele. She stormed out, leaving Femi contemplating the terrifying truth. Bisi didn't just want money, she wanted to destroy his happiness out of spiteful envy. Femi immediately tasked his PA with running a quiet, deep background check on Bisi, resolving to expose her before she could strike. But he had waited too long. Meanwhile, in Suralia, Joke was wrestling with the wreckage of her heart. She wasn't wealthy, but she wasn't a fool either. Femi's genuine shock and pain during their confrontation didn't quite match Bisi's calculated story of a cold, heartless thief. Why would a man who stole millions bother fixing a leaky pipe? She decided that she needed to find the real truth behind the complex lie, even if it destroyed her completely. Bisi didn't waste time on threats, she specialized in execution. Fueled by the rejection of Femi's bribe and her simmering envy of Joke's simple, honest happiness, she decided to hit Joke where it hurt the most, her reputation. A catering business in Lagos thrives on trust and word of mouth, and Bisi was determined to inject enough poison into that ecosystem to cause total collapse. Her first step was insidious. Bisi, using a disposable SIM, anonymously tipped off several local community leaders and the property manager in Suralere. The message was crisp, professional, and devastating. A notorious financier and fugitive, Femi Ayodele, had been using Joke's residence as a temporary, criminal hideout while running from the authorities for the theft of charitable funds. Bisi supplied the grainy photograph of Femi's Deji persona, juxtaposed with a legitimate high-resolution photo of the Ayodele sire. The implication was clear: Joke Nofa, the catering mogul, was either a willing accomplice or dangerously naive. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Joke received 3 phone calls in a single morning, all cancellations for large upcoming events. The largest, a major corporate gala, cited unforeseen security and reputation risks in their toss email. Her revenue pipeline evaporated overnight. When Joke went to the local market, the usual warmth was replaced by icy stares and hushed whispers. The proprietress of the compound, usually a jovial ally, now eyed Joke's kitchen door with suspicion, fearing police raids and public scandal. Joke was forced to confront Bisi in the hallway. "What did you do?" Joke demanded, her voice shaking not with fear, but righteous fury. Bisi leaned against the wall, filing her nails with smug nonchalance. "Me? I did nothing, cousin. I merely told the truth about Femi, that he is a thief. It's not my fault people don't want their jollof rice prepared by a potential accessory to a crime. You chose to shield him, Joke. This is the price of keeping a liar secret." Bisi's words cut deep. Joke didn't regret rejecting Femi's lies, but she was shattered by the damage Bisi's malice had wrought. Her business was her life. It was the honest pursuit of the dust, built on her own sweat and dignity. Now, Bisi was using the phantom diamond to bury it. Meanwhile, Femi's PA, the efficient and discreet Mr. Is, delivered the initial findings on Bisi. Her background was clean, but her debt was staggering. She owed several dangerous figures money from failed high-risk investments, the kind of debt that promised physical repercussions. Femi realized Bisi wasn't just acting out of envy, she was desperate. Femi had to act, but he couldn't let Joke know. If she discovered he was the one saving her, it would only confirm her belief that he was still trying to manipulate her with his money, the very thing she hated. He couldn't let his diamond pollute her dust. He tasked Mr. Is with a complex, clandestine operation. Femi instructed him to quietly inject capital into Joke's business through untraceable shell corporations posing as a new food supply chain investor. The investment was to be large enough to replace the lost revenue, pay off her suppliers, and even fund an anonymous, local PR campaign highlighting her charity work and community engagement. The goal was to rebuild her reputation and financial stability without her ever knowing Femi was involved. "This must be clean, Is," Femi warned. "If she traces 1 naira of this back to Ayodele Holdings, the entire operation is compromised. I need her to win this battle on her own terms." As the elaborate financial maneuvers began, a surprising complication emerged. Mr. Is discovered that one of the largest cancelled catering contracts, the corporate gala, had been swiftly awarded to a competitor, a high-end, newly established catering firm that had miraculously appeared on the Lagos scene 6 months prior, around the same time Femi first started his Deji disguise. The name of the new CEO? Chidi Obi, Chief Emeka's disgraced younger brother, the original central figure in Amoro's web of lies from the previous story thread. The words of the Ayodeles and the Obis were beginning to dangerously converge, driven by shared themes of betrayal and secret identities. Joke Nwafa stared at the bank statement, a knot of confusion and lingering betrayal tightening in her stomach. A large, inexplicable transfer, labeled vaguely as logistics consulting fee, had appeared in her business account, stabilizing the sudden financial hemorrhage caused by the cancelled contracts. It was enough to stop the bleeding, but not enough to erase the shame. She had refused to touch the money, instinctively suspecting Femi was trying to bribe her silence or ease his guilt. But her suppliers were now being paid by an unknown entity, making her look both protected and helpless. She felt a familiar burn of resentment. Her dignity was being compromised by anonymous wealth once again. She wasn't wealthy, but she wasn't passive. Joke decided to track down the source of the corporate sabotage that had hit her business, determined to rebuild her reputation brick by brick. She marched to the corporate gala venue, determined to face the competition head-on. The new caterer, Amesi Catering, was already setting up. The man in charge was striking, impeccably dressed in a crisp linen suit, carrying himself with the quiet authority that belied his profession. This was Chidi Obi. "I'm Joke Nwafa, of Joke's Kitchen," she introduced herself coolly. "I used to handle this contract. I'd like to know how Amesi Catering managed to secure it so fast." Chidi offered a genuine, disarming smile, a practiced look of empathy that reminded Joke vaguely of Femi, before the lie. "Ms. Nwafa, I've heard of you. Your reputation for authentic Nigerian cuisine is stellar. Unfortunately, in this world, reputation isn't enough. People get skittish when rumor touches a brand. The corporate client needed assurance against reputational risk. My firm provides that assurance." Reputational risk. That's Bisi's lie, Joke thought, boiling inside. Chidi's tone was polite, but his words were a sharp indictment of her vulnerability. He spoke of the elite's paranoia, the very system that had chewed up Femi, the perceived criminal, and was now spitting out Joke, the perceived accomplice. "Look, Ms. Nwafa," Chidi continued, his voice dropping slightly. "I admire your fight. I know the sting of being unfairly sidelined by the elite. I'm new money, trying to break the old guard's hold. I don't believe in stepping on smaller, better businesses, but I do believe in mergers of talent. I need a signature authentic line for Amesi, and your recipes are genius. I am offering you a position as head chef and culinary director. Total creative freedom, zero financial risk, and a platform that Bisi's gossip can never touch. It's an alliance against the whispers of Ikoyi." Joke felt the temptation immediately. Chidi was offering stability and revenge, a chance to prove her worth outside the toxic shadow of Femi's lie. It was a business decision, clean of romantic entanglement and free of the dirty greed of Bisi. Back in his penthouse, Femi received Mr. Iza's urgent report on Chidi Obi. "Sir, Amesi Catering is legitimate, but its funding comes from a holding company tied to the Ayodele family's rival merger targets. More disturbingly, Chidi Obi's background is complex. He was once the heir to a vast corporate empire, but vanished 5 years ago following a massive social scandal involving his then-fiancé and his older brother." Femi felt a chill travel down his spine. The betrayal, the public shame, the vanished heir. "Did you find out who his fiancé is?" "Yes, sir." "Neko. But that's not the critical link. Chidi's older brother is Chief Emeka Obi. Sir, this man is not just a competitor, he is a pawn being moved by a bigger force of betrayal against the entire Lagos corporate elite. He's looking for much more than catering contracts." Femi realized the terrible truth. If Joke aligned with Chidi, she would be placing herself in the crosshairs of a major corporate war, becoming collateral damage in Chidi's quest for vengeance against the Obi family. Femi's secret rescue attempt had failed to prevent this. He was losing her to a potentially dangerous alliance, driven by a shared enemy, the pervasive envy and betrayal of the elite. Femi had to save Joke from Chidi, a man who, much like himself, was living a double life. That night, Joke stared at Chidi's proposal, feeling a powerful mixture of determination and dread. She saw the opportunity to rise from the ashes of Bisi's sabotage. She picked up her burner phone and texted Chidi, "Let's talk." Unbeknownst to her, she had taken the first step into the deep, unforgiving currents of Lagos's most scandalous corporate feud, bringing her one step closer to the gilded crown she never wanted. Joke threw herself into her new role at Amesi Catering, embracing the professional challenge as a necessary distraction from the emotional vacuum Femi had left. Chidi Obi was, professionally, everything Femi wasn't: transparent, reliable, and completely focused on the dust, the quality of the work, not the diamond of status. Chidi treated her as a partner, not a subordinate, valuing her passion for authentic Nigerian flavors. They spent long hours together, mapping out logistics and menu structures. Chidi's respectful distance and shared resentment for the Lagos elite's manipulative games allowed a comfortable, guarded trust to bloom. Joke was drawn to him, seeing a reflection of the honest hustle she believed she had found in Deji. "The elite here, they don't understand real food," Chidi once confided, stirring a pot of soup they were tasting. "They only understand spectacle and hierarchy. We are changing that, Joke. We are building something real." His words were a balm to her wounded soul, and for the first time since Femi's departure, Joke felt hope return. Femi, meanwhile, was fighting a desperate battle on two fronts. His investigation confirmed Mr. Ize's fears. Bisi was not just a lone blackmailer. She was a paid informant for Chief Emeka Obi, Chidi's older brother, the corporate heavyweight whose empire Femi had recently disrupted. Emeka was using Bisi's familiar link to Joke, Femi's known emotional weak spot, to destabilize Femi's concentration ahead of a massive hostile takeover bid. Bisi wasn't interested in the 10 million anymore. She was Emeka's pawn, being paid to inflict maximum emotional damage and extract intel on Femi's daily actions. This revelation plunged Femi into a deeper crisis of betrayal. Femi couldn't simply expose Emeka Obi's plan without revealing his covert rescue of Joke's business. If Joke found out about the anonymous capital injection, she would see it as the final, unforgivable betrayal, proof that he couldn't let her succeed without his money. Bisi, however, was running out of time. Emeka Obi had delayed her payment, knowing her creditors were closing in. Driven by raw greed and the chilling proximity of ruin, Bisi ignored her master's instruction to gather more intel and went for the kill. She managed to intercept the encrypted correspondence between Femi's PA and the anonymous shell corporation. She now had irrefutable, time-stamped proof that Femi Ayodele, the billionaire, had been secretly funding Joke Nofa. This wasn't just proof of Femi's lie, it was proof of his ongoing control. Bisi saw her opportunity for ultimate revenge against Femi, and a final, desperate chance to earn a reward from Emeka for dismantling the rival's emotional shield. She resolved to deliver the evidence directly to Joke. Femi, alerted by Mr. Ize's security monitoring of Bisi's activity, intercepted her outside a major catering industry conference in Lekki where Joke and Chidi were attending a vendor meeting. Bisi, clutching an envelope filled with the printed financial records, saw Femi's sleek black car pull up and her eyes widened in panicked triumph. "You're too late, Femi," she spat, waving the envelope. "Joke is about to know you didn't just lie, you bought her back. You controlled her success from the shadows." Femi moved swiftly, cutting her off before she could reach the entrance where Joke was standing with Chidi. He grabbed Bisi's arm, pulling her into the relative darkness of a corner near the parking lot, his voice a low, fierce growl of love and desperation. "Give me the envelope, Bisi. You don't understand the game you're playing, or the danger you're putting Joke in." Bisi sneered, her desperation overriding all logic. "I understand that you, the great diamond, is terrified of the dust. You can't stand that she's moving on, succeeding without you. This is the only part of you I can destroy, Femi. Before Femi could respond, a dark sedan, moving with unnatural speed, veered into the parking lot. It wasn't Emeka Obi's car, but the vehicle carrying Bisi's frustrated debt collectors. They had tracked her down. In her final, chaotic act of spite, Bisi screamed Joke's name just as the sedan cornered her, and she hurled the envelope towards the main entrance, scattering the financial documents into the wind, towards the innocent woman she hated. Joke froze by the conference entrance, the roar of the dark sedan cornering Bisi fading into a distant echo. The scattered papers, fluttering like poisoned confetti on the tarmac, demanded her attention. With a sense of heavy inevitability, she stepped forward and began collecting the documents, the sleek, corporate typeface seeming to mock her fragile independence. Chidi, witnessing the entire chaotic spectacle, rushed to her side, his expression shifting from concern to professional curiosity as he recognized the complex nature of the financial statements. These are detailed account records, Joke, Chidi noted, his voice carefully neutral. A money trail leading back to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. This is too sophisticated for Bisi's personal debt. This is corporate espionage. Joke ignored him, her fingers trembling as she pieced together the narrative. An initial, large deposit labeled logistics consulting fee into her account. Corresponding withdrawals from an entity named Ideal Ventures, Femi's family's long-dormant corporate division. The dates aligned perfectly with her business's collapse following Bisi's rumors. It wasn't just proof of the money, it was proof of the control. Femi hadn't simply lied and left, he had lingered in the shadows, anonymously subsidizing her life, buying her success to keep her a manageable distance away. The truth was 1,000 times worse than Bisi's lie. Bisi had painted him as a thief running from the law, a man of shame, but still someone Joke could potentially pity. Femi's own actions proved him to be a ruthless controller, a man who saw her ambition, her passion, and her honest struggle as something pitiful, something that needed his diamond to function. He had stolen her hardship, her victory, and her autonomy. The very foundation of their love was built on his condescending interference. Joke felt a profound, searing betrayal. She looked at Chidi, who was reading a wire transfer summary over her shoulder. He didn't just lie to me, she whispered, her voice tight with devastation. He watched me struggle, watched me pick myself up, only to pull the strings and make sure I never actually succeeded without his financial tether. He didn't want the dust, he wanted the illusion of owning it. At that moment, Femi emerged from the darkness of the parking lot, his own face etched with fear and fury, having watched the debt collectors violently bundle Bisi into the sedan. He saw Joke holding the papers, the truth laid bare, and his heart broke a second time. Joke, please, Femi pleaded, taking a hesitant step toward her. Let me explain. It was to protect you from Emeka Obi and Bisi's debts. It was the only way to save your business without you knowing. Stop, Joe cut him off, raising a hand. The gesture was final, absolute. The first lie, the poverty, was about protecting your ego. This second lie, the money, is about controlling my life. You have taken every honest thing I have ever done and wrapped it in your wealth. I wanted a man, Femi, not a patron. You proved that your diamond is the only thing you trust. She crumpled the documents in her hand, her eyes devoid of tears, replaced by cold, hardened resolve. Go back to your penthouse. Go back to your empire. The only thing you saved today was your secret. As for me, I am moving on without your aid, without your shadow, and without your name. Goodbye, Femi. She turned her back on him and walked into the building with Chidi, leaving Femi standing alone. The gilded crown was fully secured in his hands, gleaming and heavy, but the woman who truly saw him had walked away forever. Meanwhile, Mr. Is, having witnessed the encounter from a discreet distance, swiftly reported the Bisi incident to Femi. "Sir, the debt collectors were not Emeka Obi's men. They were private operators, and they took Bisi to a remote location in Ape, intending to hold her for ransom. She is no longer Emeka's pawn, sir. She is a massive, uncontrollable liability, and the police are now involved." Joke Nofa had successfully walked away, but she hadn't walked into freedom, she had walked directly into Chidi Obi's strategy. Driven by her devastating sense of betrayal and a desperate need to reclaim her professional dignity, she threw herself into her role at Amesi Catering. She viewed Chidi as a necessary shield, a man who understood the mechanics of the elite without sharing their patronizing greed. Their alliance, born of professional respect and shared opposition to the old guard, now felt like a final, safe haven against the chaos Femi represented. Chidi, having gained Joke's full trust and cooperation, shifted his focus entirely back to the corporate war. He had successfully acquired a significant minority stake in Ayode's struggling subsidiary, positioning himself for the final, hostile takeover bid. The market was volatile due to Femi's earlier, covert financial destabilization, but Chidi was confident. He viewed Femi's actions as the flailing desperation of a defeated man, not the surgical self-destruction of a strategist. He set the date for the final acquisition vote, anticipating his crushing victory. In his empty Ikoyi penthouse, Femi and Mr. Ease were watching the countdown. Femi, having been brutally rejected by the woman he loved, was operating purely on cold, protective logic. The diamond was about to be obliterated to save the dust. He had sacrificed everything, his reputation, his love, and his entire life's work. The only thing left was the irreversible command. "Is everything in place, Is?" Femi asked, his voice calm, devoid of emotion. "Yes, sir. The short-selling position is leveraged to the maximum. The moment Chidi's bid goes through, it will trigger the ultimate collapse," Is replied, his face a mask of sorrow. "It's corporate suicide, sir." "It's a firewall," Femi corrected, looking out at the Lagos skyline. "It's the only way to ensure Joke does not become a casualty in Chidi's revenge against the Ayodele name." The final day of the acquisition arrived. Joke and Chidi were celebrating a successful pitch in Amasi's state-of-the-art corporate kitchen. Chidi received the alert on his phone, the bid was successful. The Ayodele subsidiary was his. He smiled, a flash of pure, unadulterated triumph. "We did it, Joke," Chidi announced, raising a glass. "We took the old guard's weakness and turned it into our strength." Seconds later, his phone screamed a financial alert. The stock of the subsidiary he had just purchased, already low, plunged to zero. The company's hidden liabilities, triggered by Femi's aggressive short-selling maneuver, had been exposed simultaneously with the ownership transfer. Chidi had bought an empty, bankrupt shell. Chidi's victorious smile vaporized. His practiced mask of empathy shattered, revealing a face contorted by raw, vicious vengeance and corporate fury. "That arrogant fool," he snarled, slamming his fist onto the stainless steel counter. "He burned the company down. He destroyed his own life just to spite me." Joke, witnessing this unfiltered outburst of rage, recoiled. The man she had allied with wasn't the kind, anti-elite entrepreneur he pretended to be. He was a corporate predator, whose focus was never the dust but the destruction of Femi's diamond. His alliance with her was merely a calculated step in his quest for revenge. Joke realized she had exchanged one man's lie of protection for another man's truth of vengeance. Femi, watching the news of the financial implosion from his penthouse one last time, turned to Is. "It's done. Joke is safe. Now, call the authorities. Tell them Femi Ayodele is ready to pay the price for his negligence." He shed his expensive suit jacket, ready to leave the gilded tomb for good. The gilded crown was gone, but the love that fueled its destruction remained. Joke's departure with Chidi was the precise catalyst Femi needed. He stood in the abandoned parking lot, the wind whipping the incriminating financial papers around his ankles, but his mind was crystal clear. The emotional firewall was complete. Joke had utterly rejected the man of the diamond, meaning any corporate fallout would not touch the woman of the dust. The time for defensive maneuvers was over. It was time for the final, irreversible offensive. Femi returned to his penthouse and found Mr. Is waiting, an envelope on the desk containing Bisi's full background and the police report on her kidnapping by the debt collectors. Bisi is off the board, sir. Kidnapped by her creditors. The authorities are searching in Ape, but she's not a threat to us anymore, Is reported, his voice tight with fatigue. She was never the threat, Is. She was the fuse, Femi stated, his eyes fixed on the Lagos skyline. Chidi is the threat. He believes I'm defeated and distracted by Joke. He's moving on the ideal subsidiary takeover bid. He thinks he's buying my vulnerability. Femi walked over to a secure terminal and pulled up a complex financial model, highlighting the subsidiary's valuation. What Chidi doesn't know is that the subsidiary's books are a house of cards. My father's initial investments were legitimate, but Emeka Obi leveraged it years ago to funnel money into his own foundation. It has massive, hidden liabilities. The moment the ownership is transferred, those debts will legally become the responsibility of the new owner, Chidi. He looked at his square jaw set. We execute the self-destruction protocol. We need to make sure that when Chidi wins, he actually loses. I want you to initiate the aggressive short selling of the subsidiary stock. Drive the perceived value down, then use the final hours before the vote to publicly expose the liability structure to the SEC, an anonymous tip, time to go off precisely when Chidi's bid is approved. Is, who had worked for the Ayodele's for 2 decades, finally showed his shock. Sir, that will obliterate the stock entirely. We will lose hundreds of millions. It will be seen as corporate suicide. It's corporate chemotherapy, Is, Femi corrected, his voice a low, fierce whisper. I am setting fire to my own house to ensure the enemy inherits only ashes. I have to destroy the diamond so the dust, Joke's life, is not poisoned by the revenge of the Obis. I have to make the ultimate sacrifice to prove that the man she loved was capable of truth. Is bowed his head, accepting the mad logic of love and self-destruction. And what will you do, sir, once the company is zeroed out? Femi shrugged off his bespoke jacket, dropping it carelessly onto the polished marble floor. I will pay the price for my own negligence. I will confess my part in running away and neglecting the corporate structure that allowed Emeka and Chidi to maneuver. I will accept the gilded crown of shame that Bisi and Neko wanted to place on my head. I have to lose my freedom to guarantee her freedom. As he walked toward the financial terminals, Femi turned, looking one last time at the panoramic view of Lagos, the city that had witnessed his fall from grace and his rise to a profound, desperate truth. He was trading his empire for a single, final act of unchallengeable integrity. The game was over, and the final move was checkmate against himself. The fallout from the Ayodele financial implosion was immediate and brutal. Femi's final act, the public and irreversible collapse of his majority stake, had achieved exactly 2 things. It crippled Chidi Obi's vengeful scheme by destroying the assets he sought to acquire, and it finally brought Emeka's decades of fraudulent corporate practices to light. The press was in a frenzy, but Femi, true to his word, had shielded Joke from the chaos. He had engineered the entire downfall to appear as a singular act of self-immolation, a desperate flight by the morally bankrupt billionaire thief Bisi had created. Joke read the headlines from a quiet corner of the Amesi catering kitchen, which now stood independently solvent and structurally sound, thanks to the exposed scandal. Chidi was gone, having vanished as quickly as his scheme had failed, leaving behind only a trail of debt and ruined prestige. Joke was, professionally and emotionally, free. The whispers of the Surale compound were silenced, replaced by the reality of Emeka's arrest and the collapse of the dynasty Femi had once led. But she wasn't happy. She felt a cold, clean emptiness. That evening, back in her old, simple apartment, now truly hers, fully paid for by her own hard-won contracts, Joke found a small, unmarked USB drive tucked into the lining of the battered Peugeot sun visor, Femi's final, silent gift. She plugged it into her old laptop. It contained only one file, a video log dated just hours before the corporate destruction. Femi appeared on screen, clean-shaven, sitting in the vast, empty Ayodele boardroom. He looked tired, but genuinely peaceful. "Joke," he began, his voice raspy. "If you are watching this, it means I succeeded. Chidi is neutralized. Your business is safe. Your reputation is unassailable." He paused, looking directly at the lens, his eyes holding the depth of their shared history. "I know what you believe, that I was trying to control you with money. And in a way, you were right. I was so afraid of losing the man you loved, Deji, that I kept trying to buy protection for the woman he loved, Joke. I didn't trust that the truth could survive the money." He pointed to a stack of signed documents beside him. "I'm signing over the remaining scraps of Ayodele holdings to the foundation funds that Emeka stole from, the very ones Bisi accused me of looting. I've liquidated my remaining personal assets and placed them in an anonymous, irrevocable trust dedicated to funding small, honest businesses like yours. I am shedding the diamond completely. I am becoming the dust." A faint, sad smile touched his lips. "I had to lose you to prove my truth to you. You rejected the lie and the manipulation, but in doing so, you proved the man you loved was real. You didn't need my money, and I needed to lose it to finally believe that. I'm giving myself up to the authorities for corporate malfeasance, not theft, but years of financial negligence I oversaw while running away to Surale. It's the only way to ensure the Ayodele name never touches you again, and the only way to truly pay for the lie." He looked away, then back, his eyes wet but steady. "The greatest betrayal was mine, to your trust. I hope one day, you forgive the man who lost his life to save your truth. You deserve your honesty, Joke. And now, you have it." The video ended abruptly. Joke sat in silence, the truth slamming into her like a physical force. He hadn't just saved her business, he had destroyed his empire, his freedom, and his life, to give her the greatest gift, absolute, unpurchasable autonomy. She loved the dust so much, he obliterated the diamond to protect it. Femi Ayodele was officially declared a fugitive, his assets seized, his legend ending in infamy. Joke Nofa, the independent chef, was free. She had the purest love a man could give, a sacrifice that defined her worth without a price tag. She never saw Femi again. He had achieved his goal. He just had to lose his life to keep it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Tales Bike 1 for more powerful stories you won't forget.